Hello and welcome to the Smells Like Infinite Sadness podcast. I'm your host, Michael Taylor. For those of you who don't know, I run the website, smellslikeinfinitesadness.com. It's a blog covering the best alternative rock from the 80s and 90s up to present day. I'm a proud middle-aged Gen Xer who is still obsessed with the music of his youth and loves to talk about it. And today I'm speaking with legendary drummer Dale Crover, best known for his work with the Melvins. Through their unique blend of metal, punk, and experimental music, the Melvins helped shape the grunge sound and were deeply influential among metal musicians. Crover has also lent his drumming talents to bands including Acid King, Altamont, Red Kross, and even Nirvana. And Rolling Stone magazine listed him as the 69th greatest drummer of all time. But Crover's more than just a great rock drummer, however, and he has just released his third solo album, and see if I can pronounce this right, Glossolalia, out now via Joyful Noise Recordings. The album features contributions from Tom Waits, Kim Thayil from Soundgarden, Ty Segall, and many more. In this episode, I talked to Dale about the creative inspirations behind Glossolalia, how he brought together his collaborators, the differences in his songwriting process between his solo work and the Melvins, a solo tour supporting Red Kross, future plans for the Melvins, and much more. So stick around for the interview, and afterwards we'll be playing a track off the new album. Now, let me see if I'm pronouncing this right. Is it Glossolalia, or is that totally wrong?
Glossolalia.
Glossolalia.
At least that's how I pronounce it. So, of course, I picked a name for a record that people can't pronounce, which I was almost against, but I kind of got talked into it by the label. So we couldn't think of any other good names anyway.
Well, I think it's interesting. I was reading on the press release for this, talking about how your other solo albums, you kind of came in with some song sketches and kind of knew what you were going to record. But for this one, you kind of went in cold. Was that intimidating or liberating or a kind of a bit of both?
I mean, no, it's not really true. Like the song, like I had these songs were fresher. I mean, I didn't really go in with nothing. I went in probably more prepared this time than I did with the last couple records, because I did demos, which I hardly ever do because, you always fall in love with the demo. And then once you start recording, you're like, this doesn't sound as good as the demo. So, but I didn't care about that. I just, I used to do like 4-track stuff a long time ago, 4-track demo stuff with cassette. I had one of those cassette Tascam Porta Studios, and I hadn't used one in a long time. I got a new 8-track version, digital version, and it was great. It was a great songwriting tool. And so I think pretty much what I meant from the press release is that I had exhausted any material that I had before. Anything built up. So I had to start from scratch and write, new songs or whatever. So which is fine. So, and this record has more kind of songs than the previous two. It's maybe less experimental. There's less experimental drum stuff on it and more like songs, I guess.
Yeah, I can hear that. I think reading about, also talking about the album title and that memory you had from school where you saw someone that speaking in tongues during a church service, has that memory kind of always stayed fresh in your mind, or did it kind of occur randomly one day you remembered it and you're like, that would be a good idea for an album or for a song? Or
pretty much that's how it happened. I mean, I didn't forget about it, but I was just like, oh, that's a good idea. It's a little more involved than just that, but that's kind of that was kind of what I was writing about.
Well, I thought it was kind of a stroke of genius to get Tom Waits to open the album by actually speaking in tongues. Did you have him in mind from the beginning when you decided to do that, or?
Well, no. I mean, it kind of came up to like try to get guest stars for this record, and Toshi, who's the engineer, he's engineered, like, we've been working with him for like the past 25 years with Melvins and various other projects. He was the one that's like, oh, you should try to get Tom Waits. I have kind of a connection. And I'm like, you have a connection? How? He's like, well, my stepson's friend's mom's sister manages him. I'm like, oh, so a direct connection. Okay. And I'm like, oh, he's, he won't do it. He's not going to do whatever we ask him to do. I mean, and what would we have him do? Like sing a song or what, And so I was kind of like, I was basically poo-pooing the idea, just thinking like, oh, he's not going to do it. And he's like, yeah, but if you don't ask, I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I'm like, but what will we have him do? And then we did that song and we're thinking like, oh, we should like speak in tongues on this at the beginning or something. I'm like, that's what we should ask Tom Waits to do. That might be something that he would actually consider. It's like a weird enough request that, it's not like, hey, sing this song and spend all this time doing this. It's like, hey, would you just like speak gibberish into like a voice memo for like 10 seconds? So anyway, we mailed the manager, and she was aware of like who the Melvins were. And so she's like, that kind of sounds like something that would be up his alley. So we sent the song, and he agreed to do it. So, and nobody was more surprised than me, but I was really, really grateful that he would do it,
No, it's awesome.
So
it really,
yeah. And I still have something for him.
Oh yeah.
For doing it, because he didn't want anything. So I'm like, okay, well, I got to get you something. So yeah, a little present. So I have to send it still.
And like you said, you've been working with Atoshi Kasai for a long time now. What does he bring to the process when you're making an album? Is it just have a very streamlined when you work with him, or is he very experimental? Does he give you some ideas, or is it just?
Oh yeah. I mean, well, he's really good at what he does as far as engineering goes. He's super quick and always has been. Compared to other people that we've worked with in the past, I don't feel like we're sitting around waiting for something, waiting for him to do something. It's like he's really quick at what he does. He's really good, and yeah, he's got I would bring in the demo, play it for him. Like, what do you think? And he's like, well, maybe play it a little bit slower or whatever. And then, recording wise, we would start with guitar and then just to have something to play the drums along to, and then go back and redo guitars. And, I would ask his opinion on, I would have ideas of like what I wanted the guitar to sound like, and I kind of did that on the demos, but I would let him help me come up with a guitar tone or whatever. And we've got tons of like stomp boxes and effects and like a whole ton of amps and a bunch of different guitars, and we would just kind of sit there and figure out and experiment that way. I'm like, oh, what's going to sound good with this or that or whatever, and yeah, he's really good at that stuff for sure. And yeah, as a producer, he definitely co-produced the record, so he's always got really good ideas. He's got a really good ear, and he's fun to work with. And he makes a really killer latte.
That's good to know.
Like I gave him, yeah. Like really good. When you go to Italy and you have one of those little cappuccino, and you could just go and down it. He makes one of those. He's master.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, how'd you? I gave him like this one of those Kross little espresso machines a while ago, because. The one I had for a long time, I'm like, I can't make it. It tastes like crap, Or you want this? And so he took it and he figured out how to use it right. And then, yeah, he dynamite. So, yeah.
Definitely a good person to have then for early studio sessions for sure. Get you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's always nice to take a coffee break.
And you've got a lot of unique collaborators on this album. We were talking, before, and you've got Kim Thayil plays on "I Quit," which is my favorite song off the album. I really like that one.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
It has like kind of a dark, kind of metal vibe to it in a way.
Yeah.
And you've got Ty Segall on "Spoiled Daisies" and "Waiting Forever," just to name a few of your collaborators. Did you think about using them after the song was written, or was it always kind of in mind that like I'm going to use them on this song because it just sounds like a Kim Thayil song? Or how did you decide to include them?
I'd already had the song. Yeah, I'd already had the songs written, and yeah, it was pretty much like that. Like "Spoiled Daisies" was a no-brainer because it already kind of sounded like a Ty Segall song, and so that was easy enough. Both of those guys I know, so it was easy just to like text them and go, "Hey, would you record something?" And like both of those guys texted back like within a couple minutes and were like, "Yeah." So Ty lives in LA, and so it was easy enough to get him to come down to the studio and like spend an hour or whatever and just do some solos. And then Kim, I sent him that track, and he did a couple attempts. He did it once, and he's like, I wasn't happy with what I did. I want to do it again. And so he went back and did it like second time, and it came out great. And then he's like, "Oh, that was really great. I really like that a lot. If you have anything else," I'm like, "Sure." So I sent him another song, and he did a solo on that too. So, but yeah, like, I was thinking of like who I could get to play on it, and I kind of mostly needed guitar solos. I mean, I can play a guitar solo, but there's people that are better than me that I thought would be, like I remember just like being someplace and hearing Soundgarden playing. I'm like, oh fuck yeah, Kim Thale, that'd be great. So that was no problem. I tried to get Adrian Belew to play on it.
No.
And I had a connection. I'd met him once before, but didn't really know him that well or anything. But yeah, for that song, Doug Yuletide.
Yeah.
We kind of thought once we were done with it, that it kind of sounded like a little bit like a Talking Heads song. And I'm like, wow, we should try to get Adrian Belew to play a guitar solo on this. That'd be really great. But he was busy. He's like, I'm just super busy right now. I was like, I'd love to, but I don't have the time. So, he's out doing King Crimson stuff right now. So that's what he was working on.
Oh yeah,
so, yeah. But I was happy to ask him, and who knows, maybe sometime in the future, get him to do something.
That would be great.
So, yeah.
Well, speaking of Doug Yuletide, I was actually going to talk about that. I like that song a lot. The Velvet's influence is really cool, and I like the vampire lyrics. And I know that you wrote that with your Altamont bandmate Doug Southwick and Dan. Sorry, and I think you wrote another song with him as well, Punchy.
I did, yeah.
So I guess my question is, when you're writing with the Melvins, or you're writing with Doug, or you're writing by yourself, what are the different facets you feel like how does working with Doug differ from the Melvins as far as how you interact with him? And when you're working solo, what do you like about writing solo versus writing with somebody else?
With Dan, he's writing with him is like, we'll be like playing or whatever. He'll be playing the guitar and he'll play something. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I was just like fucking around. I'm like, oh, keep playing that. And then I'll record it. So he's like an accidentalist for sure. The kind of his best stuff comes that way. But with Doug Yuletide, he had those riffs already. And, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And I just kind of wrote, he had the main riff, and then I wrote everything around it, and arranged it. And then I think that one was the last song we recorded for the record. And we hadn't worked on that at all when we went in the studio. He just had like two parts. And we ended up writing like the end of it and arranging it there. And then I came up with the bass part and vocals and the other stuff. So when I do my own stuff, I don't know, usually it takes me a lot longer, because I'll have like a riff. I'll like come up with a riff I like, and then throw it onto like voice memo or whatever. And then forget about it until later, and then come back and kind of, if I remember it, then I know it's something that I could probably turn into a song.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes I go back and listen to stuff that I've like, just sitting around playing guitar, and I'll record something, forget about it, and then go back and listen to it later, and sometimes finish it. Like I said, having that 8-track helped a lot, because it would kind of force me to finish stuff. And for me, lyrics were always super hard. Like I just I don't know, I think maybe I thought too hard about them, and then I just kind of figured out a better way to write. I can come up with melody, no problem. And so usually when I'm doing demos, I'll just like scat something, and then sometimes a good line or two will come out of it. And then I'll just keep that and write around that. Melvin stuff, I really don't write. I barely like 1% of that stuff is me. I mostly concentrate on drums. The one song that probably the most popular one that I had something to do with was The Bit. And I had those guitar parts and gave it to Buzz, who wrote lyrics and rearranged it. So, but mostly, yeah, with that stuff, it's like, he's got a ton of songs, and they're all really great. And it's like, so fun to play drums to that stuff. So I'll just concentrate on that. We'll write together, but usually it's like us sitting in a room, him like going over parts, and like us just kind of jamming it and fleshing it out, whatever it might be. sometimes they'll come in with a whole song, sometimes not. Sometimes we'll write songs right there when we're just playing or whatever. So, but he's a riff master. He's got no shortage of riffs, and he's not somebody that's ever had writer's block.
Definitely a very prolific band for sure.
And I've learned a lot from him. I've learned a lot from him too, songwriting wise. So it's great. I guess one thing I've kind of figured out too, maybe not necessarily from Melvins, but like sometimes it's easy to overcomplicate things.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just, keep it simple, sometimes that's better.
Do you kind of feel like the songs that you write, like in 5 minutes, are the best ones versus the ones that you labor over for too long? Is that kind of conventional wisdom, or not always?
Sometimes. I mean, there's definitely songs on this record that I wrote quickly, more than normal, I think. In the past, stuff just kind of sat around until I was able to record it. The difference too is like I don't live in LA anymore. So when I did the last couple of records, I would come up with a couple songs and take my time, go record those songs, finish them, go write some more, come back, finish them. So it took a lot longer. But with this, it's like I knew I wanted to get a record done. So I just like worked really hard at finishing it, and Dan was somebody that I was like, oh, let's write a couple songs together. So it was easy enough.
Well, you're talking about writing lyrics. I think the lyrics on this album are really interesting, though. And I know you've kind of used some unusual influences, like, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for one song.
Yeah, kind of.
Rings has kind of a crime, like a crime noir kind of feel to it, the way it's written.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Funny. I mean, a lot of it was just like, if I can come up with a couple of good lines, like I said, then I can write around that. Rings was one I remember like writing and like finishing pretty quickly. And I don't know, like whatever reason, the lyrics came pretty quickly. I might have changed them a slight bit. I think I remember when I did the demo, I just had one verse, and I'm like, I'll write the next one later. So, but it was that one was pretty easy too. So, yeah, I don't know quite what it's about. I kind of have a vision of it a little bit, but kind of like a methed out prison barfly who gets in trouble.
Well,
causes trouble wherever you go.
Well, did you have like kind of an overall concept for this album, as far as, since it has kind of a dark aesthetic to some of the lyrics and all that? Was there an overall theme, or it kind of evolved
really,
that way naturally?
Yeah. It's pretty natural. I don't know why my stuff like comes out sounding pretty dark.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. I guess because I don't know. I mean, there's some of them are kind of more happier than normal, but definitely like a lot of the stuff I write comes out that way. It's like, I don't know. I really like Cheap Trick is kind of this poppy band.
Mm-hmm.
Some of their lyrics, if you like listen, they're like, wow, that's fucking fucked up.
Yeah.
So I always like that. So rather than like, writing love songs or whatever.
Yeah. It's Nick Cave kind of stuff. It's a little more interesting as far as.
Yeah, I guess so. There's enough people that write love songs or whatever.
That's true. Well, yeah, I know you did your summer tour for the solo record. How was that received overall? Did you have a pretty good response from audiences?
For the record, yeah, it seems like it. It seems like it's doing pretty good. It just came out on the 13th of September, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's selling okay. I think like I know it doesn't really make much in the way of album sales, but like according to Spotify, I've like jumped up quite a bit as far as listeners go. Now, if they just pay people, it'd be great.
Yeah, I know. And it's and it's got to be so frustrating for musicians. I feel so bad that y'all have to get paid pennies from that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, right. But it's like it's a same old story. Artists get ripped off.
Yeah.
It's been since the beginning of, whatever.
How have the songs been going over live, though, that you've been playing?
Pretty good. I mean, yeah, the Red Cross tour I did was me playing acoustic. So a lot of the stuff was people hadn't heard it before. And then I just did a little tour just of California with the full band. And yeah, it seems like people like it. Seems like people like, a lot of people seem to like, well, Doug Yuletide for sure, and then Rings. So
yeah, those are both really good.
Yeah. So yeah, so far so good. And I leave Sunday to go to Europe with the Red Cross. We're doing the same thing over there, where I'm doing a DJ set and then an acoustic set and then playing with the Red Cross. So, which kind of came out as on the Red Cross tour that we just did in the US. I wanted to take the band, the solo band, but it just wasn't financially feasible.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd done it before. Like we'd played live opening for Red Cross during a West Coast tour one time. And Steve actually had played in the live band. So, but he wanted to concentrate on Red Cross and not worry about being two bands. And then so he's like, oh, but you're going to DJ. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, sure. He's like, yeah, we can pay you to DJ. I'm like, that sounds good. And then it's funny because I kind of had thought like, oh, well, I almost wish I was playing. Like I could probably just do like, I mean, I'd thought about doing a solo acoustic thing, but I just hadn't really done it yet. And, out of the blue, he's kind of like, well, how about, and as well as the DJ thing, like, would you want to try to do like a one-man band thing, like maybe play along to tracks or something like that? I'm like, what about acoustic? He's like, sure. So that's how that's come about. So yeah. So now I've done a bunch of shows doing that, and I would like to do more after this. I would like to do more. So I was just practicing that stuff before this interview.
Have you ever DJed before?
Yeah. Not this way, but I mean, yeah, like I used to DJ at this bar in town called the Cha-Cha Lounge here in Los Angeles, and a bunch of other places too. Do you know the bar?
Yeah. A long time ago. I went to, I used to live there a long while back, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I haven't done it in a long time at a bar, but so this is pretty easy. I mean, that I used to take vinyl and go down there. And I also had my own needles, because since it was a bar, DJs going down there would get all hammered and fuck up the needles all the time.
Oh.
So I got my own, which is pretty fun. And so when I first DJ'd, it was like, I think I did it off of like, I might have tried to do it like off CD or something. And I'm like, this is kind of boring. So it was more fun to do it with records, because you felt like you were doing something, or like trying to cue something up on like an iPad or like an iPod or whatever, but now I on tour, I can't really haul around turntables and vinyl.
Yeah.
It's too much. So I ended up finding this program, or an app actually, called DJ Pro, which is pretty fun. It looks just like two turntables.
Oh, really?
and you can do all the things you can with two turntables, which is fun. Like do all kinds of goofy stuff like scratch, and then it's got all kinds of like effects built into it, just like a normal like club DJ would have. So
that's
like horns and like, like all kinds of goofy stuff. And so it's been pretty fun.
I have to play around with that myself.
Yeah. I always kind of DJ'd on the fly too. Just like, okay, like, not really having a plan of like what I'm going to play or whatever, just like,
Mm-hmm.
let the crowd kind of dictate how it might go.
Yeah. Just kind of follow their lead
a little bit. I mean, like I have a few songs that are kind of like, I'll always play to start off with or finish with or whatever. But then, yeah, it just kind of depends, like, what the crowd's like.
And I guess for this tour, for your set list, is it a kind of a mix of all your solo stuff? Is there anything you're doing that's from different bands, or is it primarily
a little bit? It's all solo stuff. I do the bit, the Melvins song, and then it's not very long either, because like I think people will get bored with me playing acoustic before, like at a rock show, So I only play about 20 minutes. Like I'll DJ for about 25 minutes and then play about 20 minutes acoustic, which is about enough, because people don't get bored of it, and it's like just enough to where they like it,
mm-hmm.
and appreciate it. So it'll be that. I'm working out some different songs though this time, just to throw in, and maybe alternate a few things. And then towards the end of the tour, I'm doing my own show. It's like an in-store at Rough Trade West in London. But that'll be interesting because they don't have a PA. And so it's just going to be me sitting around playing Kumbaya with acoustic guitar, you know? So it'll be as naked as it could possibly be.
Is there something kind of exciting about that though? When you're kind of just
a little, yeah, for sure. I mean, even before I did the acoustic thing, I wasn't like nervous. I was more like excited about doing it, you know, and it just being something kind of different to do. You know, I wasn't like, some people are just like, oh my God, that'd be way too frightening to do something like that. It's like, well, I don't know, for whatever reason, you know, I felt okay about it, you know, just went for it.
And once this tour's over, what's next? Do you have plans for like a Melvins tour, a new album, or are you working on some other projects, or what do you have in the works once this wraps up?
There's a couple more solo shows just kind of locally. I would love to be able to come out there. That would be great, you know, or East Coast as well. I think Austin, we could probably do a show and it'd be pretty okay. So sometime I would like to do that. But yeah, next year the Melvins are super busy. So we've got all kinds of shit planned. Lots of tours. There'll be records, all kinds of stuff. It's all starting up again. So it'll be fun. So I know that we already have plans to come to your way.
Good.
Once, if not more.
I will stay booked. I will stay on top of it this time. I don't want to miss it. So I've always always a good time whenever you guys come through town. So definitely something to look forward to.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you, Dale. Thanks for talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks.
And good luck with the tour. And yeah, I'll keep posted on the Melvins tour dates. And yeah, good luck with everything. And enjoy the new album. So been good talking to you about it.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right.
Take care.
Okay. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Many thanks to Dale Crover for taking the time out for this interview. If you check out the notes for this podcast episode, you'll see where you can order his new album, Glossolalia, and where you can get tickets for his current tour with Red Kross over in Europe. As promised, I'm ending the episode with a song off the new album. It's called I Quit and features Kim Thayil from Soundgarden on lead guitar duties. It's really cool. I think you'll dig it. So give it a listen. And until next time, stay safe and stay sane.
Charm, loss of control.